بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله كما ينبغي لجلال وجه وعظيم سلطانه والصلاة والسلام على أطيب المرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. So just a reminder again, our focus, the main point from this whole session is the harmony piece in the family. So there are many aspects to the lack of harmony that we are seeing in the community now that we did not discuss. So I'm just going to mention some of them, okay? For example, I am concerned about the lack of interest in marriage that is happening among our young people, whether men or women. So that's one. Another thing that I'm concerned about is loneliness. My young female clients are experiencing a lot of loneliness, and I'm also seeing a lot of loneliness in the older generation. Yeah. It's a problem for our community. Another concern is the mental health crisis that is happening in the larger society, but it's also happening in our community. And what do I mean by that? Like, we have increase in rates of anxiety, depression. We have also youth who are thinking about contemplating suicide, and we have youth who actually commit suicide too. Another concern that I have is also the alienation of the youth from our deen, from our faith. So there are other aspects to what is happening nowadays. It's not only between husband and wife, but we don't have time to discuss all of them. Now in my segment, I'm gonna talk about some practical ideas of how can we bring harmony into the couple's relationship. So I'm only focusing on the couple's relationship right now, okay? I think tomorrow there is another session. I'm going to focus on the parenting aspect, but now only couples. So what are the three major conflict areas that I see in my office between couples? Decision making, how to make decisions about simple and big things, how to make decisions about, for example, where are we going to live? What kind of furniture are we gonna buy? How are we gonna live? Are we gonna sleep early? Are we gonna wake up early? Believe me, I mean, small and big things, but it's all related to decision. And the biggest decision making has to do with how do we raise children. The second conflict, the second major conflict is how do we spend money? So where do we spend money? How much do we spend money? Who makes the decision? Who is the one bringing in the money? And the third major conflict has to do with sexual intimacy. So alhamdulillah, Maryam and I, we did Instagram Live. An Instagram Live. Yes, it's on YouTube about the sexual intimacy, okay? So I'm not going to talk about that, but this is such an important topic. I'm just going to briefly say that the main thing here with sexual intimacy is, unfortunately, women are not understanding how important this aspect of the marital relationship is. So anyone who's interested in this topic, please watch the YouTube about it. I want to emphasize here, adding to what Maryam said about Qawama, that Qawama is about defining roles and expectations. It's not about control. And it's not about blind obedience, because that's part of how people misunderstand Qawama sometimes. They think that a woman has to blindly obey her husband. Okay? There are specific areas where a woman, yes, is encouraged to obey her husband, but in other areas she doesn't need to. Now I know some people are going to be up in arms and coming to me, how dare you say that? But I'm saying it. The idea also about Qawama is that a woman is not submissive. I want to emphasize this. This is not about a woman just going to say, Hadir. In Masr, they have, in Egypt, they have this, like it's kind of like a running joke, like, yani, a woman always says to her husband, Sayyid, like, yani, yes, Hadir. No, it's not about that. So, within the concept of Qawama, a woman has a voice, she speaks her opinion, she shares what she thinks, And we're going to see how we're going to work through this in the next few tips, inshallah, bismillah. So what is needed for sakina, tranquility, to be part of the family culture? We need roles and expectations to be clear. We need communication that goes both ways. It's not only from the husband to the wife, both ways. And we need a plan for disagreements. And we need to know from the beginning that we're going to agree to disagree. That it's not about that we're going to align in everything we think or we believe in. So, these 3 points I emphasize a lot with the couples who come for premarital counseling. And for anyone here who knows of any couple who wants to get married, please encourage them to do premarital counseling. Because sometimes in the time before marriage, couple is just so excited and so happy, and they're just thinking about the wedding and what they're gonna do, and they really forget the real work. They don't do the real work about having the hard conversations about how do we hold a family together, how do we connect together. So please encourage everyone to do premarital counseling. Now, I'm going to talk about specifically financial matters and the decision-making process with some practical tips. And So let's begin with the financial matters. There is a concept in Islam, a beautiful concept in Islam, that I think we have forgotten and we're not really actually utilizing. And it's called al-dhimma al-maliyya. In Arabic, al-dhimma al-maliyya. What does it mean? It means that every single soul, even the fetus in the womb of the mother, they have rights, they have financial rights. And when they are adults and rashideen, meaning that they have the clear thinking processes, they have full control over their financial assets. So, dhimma al-maliyya meaning a woman has full control over her own financial assets, and no one can come and tell her, none of her male relatives can come and tell her, no, spend this way, don't do this way. She can consult, she can ask for advice, but no one has the right to force her to do something she doesn't want to do. It's her right to her own money, okay? Same thing for the husband. But as I was saying before, the husband in Islam is ordained to actually provide for the family, not the woman. So let's keep this in mind. Now, because of the difficulty, financial difficulty that Maisa was talking about, which is the reality right now in our life, sometimes families, both husband and wife, have to work together. So I encourage my couples when they come to me with financial problems, or even when I'm doing premarital counseling, I say, if the woman works and has her own money, she has to have her own separate bank account. This is respecting her dhimma al-maliyya that Allah has given her. This is a right by Allah. So she should have her own separate bank account. Husband, he has his own dhimma maliyya too. So he should have also his own separate bank account. But then there needs to be, if they're both providing for the family, we have a joint account where the husband has to put whatever, how much money he can, he has the ability to provide, and then the woman can supplement and support. According to some scholars, the woman is not supposed to give more than 1/3 of her income. Okay? According to some scholars. Now, I know sometimes nowadays what's happening, our young couples, they're doing 50-50. Okay, no problem. You're doing 50-50, but I want you to understand, especially for the husband, that the responsibility is actually on you. So for you to take some money and just spend it on whatever and just provide 50% to the family, you're not doing your part of Qawama. Keep this in mind. And whatever the woman is giving to the family, it's part of her sadaqah. SubhanAllah. So the first one is dhimma maliyya. And I want to emphasize here that please, for the young couples who especially live in Orange County with hyper focus on materialism and brand names and living largely, okay, let's go back to living within our means. Let's go back and avoid actually being in debt. Okay, now for if the couple where the wife is not actually working and she's not contributing to the household, when the couple comes to me, I tell the husband, well, you are responsible to provide for her. So to minimize the conflict around money spending, you guys decide on the budget for the house, but also I invite you, I'm talking to the husband, I invite you that you allocate a certain amount within your means. Okay, it doesn't need to be a lot of money, but within your means, you allocate a certain amount of money that goes into a separate account for your wife, okay? So she can spend from that money without coming back to you and telling you, I need to spend on this, I want to buy this, are you okay with that? This way the wife can decide freely. She wants to spend all of it on one purse, that's fine. Now, because it's her money. So that will minimize a lot of conflict, inshallah, bismillah. Okay, so that's for financial matters. Now let's come to decision making. In the Quran, subhanallah, Allah talks about how when the couple have to wean the child from breastfeeding, that the couple, both of them, they do shura and they talk and discuss about when are they going to do it, how are they going to do it, and what does shura mean in this situation. I want to be very clear and think about the Prophet ﷺ. How did he do shura with his companions? How did he do it? He basically would be sitting with them, telling them, okay, this is the issue, let me hear from all of you, let me hear, what do you think, what do you think? And then the Prophet ﷺ would make the decision after hearing and listening to everybody. So in certain situations, and I'm specifying here the financial matters, when the husband is the provider, okay, we can have shura about what we're going to spend and how we're going to spend, and the wife can share her opinion about it, but ultimately it will be the final decision back to the husband. I'm being very clear here. He is providing, okay, and she gets to have a voice, and then he makes the final decision. So let's use this shura in how are we making decisions within the family. So in any issue that comes up for the family, we're gonna describe the issue, hear the different opinions, and then one of them in things where they don't actually feel so strongly about, when both of them don't believe that this is such an important issue, then one of them makes the final decision. So let me make it more clear. So this one is a strategy from Dr. Gottman, who's a very famous marriage researcher from Seattle. So he says, when the couple disagree on something, we ask each one of them, how important is this issue for you? From 1 to 10. Like, just tell me, okay, wife, okay, from 1 to 10, let's say, and I'll give you a beautiful example now, and then the husband from 1 to 10. So I had a couple one time, they came in and they were arguing about the wedding favors. And you know, when couples argue, they're not arguing about the same thing. They're arguing about different aspects of the same issue, okay? So, but that gets lost in the discussion and the conversation. So they were arguing and they're both passionate about it and heated, and everyone is trying to convince the other person, this is my opinion, this is what we should do. And then I simply said, okay, let's try this. Let's see if this works for you. I asked the wife, how important is this wedding favor business for you? And she said, I think it was an 8 for her. And then I looked at the husband and I said, how important this is for you? And he said 3. And as he said 3, he started laughing, and on his own he said, Khalas, you make the decision. So this is a very simple and it's a very practical. Okay, let's define from the beginning how important do we believe about, or how strongly do we feel about this issue. And then if someone feels stronger, then they get to make the final decision about it. Now Gottman also says, which is very interesting, it's also such a relief to hear that when he did research on happily successful families and marriages, he found out that these happily successful marriages, husband and wife do not agree. Do not agree 70% of the time. So we're not talking about 10%, not talking 20%, 70% of the issues. They don't see eye to eye, they don't agree, and they are happy and they are successful. And the reason why they're happy and successful is because they have figured out a way to work out through their differences. So in the situations where a couple feel very strong, both of them feel strongly about an issue, it is important to actually dissect the issue, unpack it into different components, so each can see, why am I passionate about this issue? I mean, what's the reason why I feel so strongly? Because they will discover that it's not about the same aspects of the same issue. And then they can find a way to compromise. And if they are definitely stuck, even before counseling, I highly recommend for couples, this is what my husband and I did when we had problems in our marriage. We actually sought the wisdom of my father. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him sahha and strength, ya Rab. So we complained to my father, and my father sat with both of us, and I remember the first thing he said to us. And sometimes I use it with my couples, depending on the situation. He told us, he looked at both of us, we're all three of us sitting there, and he looked at us and he said, "You both are very decent people. You both are very good people. You just are not able to work through your differences. But I know you will be able to." And then he listened to both of us and then kind of like calmed us down and helped us to see how we can move forward. So if you have someone in your family who is wise, whom you trust, who you feel safe with, and who is not going to be prejudiced to your side because, for example, you're related to them, highly recommend that you actually share with these people in your life. There is a lot of wisdom in the people around us, but we need to reach out and ask for support and help. Now let's assume you don't have someone like that, then by all means, please seek counseling. And seek counseling early, because sometimes I get couples when it's already too late. So, okay, let's see. So I just want to end by saying, Qawama is about the husband's responsibility, not control. Unfortunately, some people use the concept to control women, and that is the reflection of their need for control, because they are controlling people. I just as an example also, when I married my husband, I was very keen on applying the Islamic guidance to the husband-wife relationship. So for some of you, you know, one of the guidance is that a woman doesn't leave the house of her husband without the permission of her husband. So before I married my husband, I asked him, I said, Amir, would you need me to every single time I'm leaving the house to actually contact you and ask you if I can leave or I can go or something? And he looked at me and he's like, he has never heard that before. He didn't know about this guidance. And he's like, of course not. So my point is, people who control are in themselves controlling, and they use the Sharia, okay, the rules of the Sharia to control, not because the Sharia is intending people to be controlled. Okay, second point is, I want women to be very clear that you need to voice your opinion. You don't need to yell and scream. You can just say, this is what I think, even in the financial matters that are under your husband's control, if he is the provider. Because I have seen many couples where the woman will have more wisdom in financial matters than her husband. And she would voice her opinion, husband doesn't take it, and then he discovers to his dismay that she was right. But what happens with these couples is with time, the husband started to actually trust what the woman is saying, and then when she says something, now he goes like, yeah, okay, maybe, maybe we'll do that. So please, women, voice your opinion, okay? And then Sakina is about defining our roles and expectations in the marriage. So if we haven't done it before the marriage, let's define it now. It's never too late. And then to know that we as a team, we as a couple, we are a team working to support each other, each one of us with the fadl of Allah, with the assets, with the gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to each one of us. We work together. بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, with what Allah has favored each one of you over the other. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us qurrat ayn and sakina in our families.